Hey, what's happening? I'm Myles Kennedy, and you're listening to Metal from the Inside.
You've tuned in to the most crazy rocking metal podcast on the air. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metal from the Inside.
Back, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Metal from the Inside podcast. This week, I am super honored to have a vocalist, guitarist, musician, someone that you all know joining me on the podcast, Mr. Myles Kennedy. How you doing, Myles?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And first, I want to congratulate you. I know it's been a couple months, but on the release of the new record that came out in May. It's a great record, so congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's hard to believe it's already been out for a couple months. It's time's flying.
Yeah, so I want to, of course, talk a little bit about that album and kind of get into, some of the details on that. I know that it's your second, solo record. It was a follow-up to 2018's Youre The Tiger. What's so interesting about you and your career is that you've had so many different roles that you've played in different bands. You've been in Alter Bridge, you've been with Slash, you've done session work. But, with 2018 and Youre The Tiger, you were really able to kind of show the world you and your own music and everything that you've kind of been kind of holding back a little bit with your other projects. So, in short, what is it like to kind of have the world really see, who Myles Kennedy is, with this new music?
It's great. It's like I look at the opportunity to make solo records as a chance to do the things you normally wouldn't be able to do in the context of your other bands. And so I try to take advantage of that. As you can tell, I've a definite love for blues and acoustic-based music, so I try to bring a lot of that into the fold. And with this record, it rocks a little harder than the first one. I wanted to turn up the amps a little bit and have some, get some things off my chest in that way. But yeah, I mean, I think that it all falls on your shoulders. You don't have a team to bounce ideas off of. It's just like I sit in my studio and put it together, and it's ultimately, if I want to screw it up, I'm going to screw it up on my own.
Yeah, I was going to say, this record has more of like a hard rock edge to it, but I've noticed that, you did a really good job of like mixing what you did with Youre The Tiger with this record, because, you have a good balance of, still that acoustic kind of intimate sound that you went for with that first record, but it's also got, some like shreddy solos in there and some kind of really blues, hard rock oriented riffs. So what was the process of trying to combine those two kind of styles together?
It's interesting because it's kind of a balancing act, and it's always being aware of wanting to make it so that you don't go too extreme in either direction, and you find like a nice middle ground. So yeah, and a lot of that has to do with how I'll arrange the songs, like especially when I'm demoing the tracks. That especially with this record, I really spent a lot of time because I wasn't touring. I didn't have anything else to do, so I'd sit in my studio and go ahead and just kind of lay everything down on the demos, just so that when I handed it over to the band, they had a good idea of what I was hearing in my head. And yeah, so that it would be a matter of balancing, have enough acoustic guitar in the mix and acoustic parts and the lap steel, but then, let's add a little bit more electric here, and when we do this solo, we're going to play a few more notes, just to kind of look. I'm more of a blues player at heart as far as a guitar player goes, but I definitely came up the ranks as a young player, and we were all listening to a lot of shred-oriented guitar players, in the especially in the late '80s. That was kind of the height of a lot of that. So that's definitely in my musical DNA, and to pull some of those tricks out once in a while is fun. And I kind of dust off the cobwebs, which was a challenge on this record, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I know that you talked a lot about the guitar that you used for this record, and how things and the instruments that you use really influence the sound and how everything kind of comes together. So, with that certain guitar, which I know is like the Nocaster, like the Fender that you used for this, did that really kind of influence the more maybe kind of hard rock style that we see on this one?
I think it's interesting. My love of the Telecaster, the Nocaster, and all that, it definitely has a certain attack and like almost a twang to it. That's what Telecasters are known for. So that I think brings a certain amount of that country flair to some of these songs, and kind of that spank, as some players will kind of articulate it. But but then there were songs that were written solely on the acoustic as well, and so you can hear that as in the context. I definitely didn't want to make a full-on country album, because that, as much as I enjoy country and country blues and all of that, I'm a rock guy, and I felt like I don't want to alienate a fan base that has known me for doing something for the last few decades, and suddenly he's like, what is this? So it's once again, it goes back to that balance. It's that idea of you're going to kind of you're going to create something, you're going to extract from all these different influences and make it your own, thing, and part of your sonic brand,
Yeah. And I also love so much about this record, kind of the lyrical content that you had, because it's very evident, I know that it was said, you wrote this from about like March to July of 2020, so when we were really kind of in the thick of everything and really uncertain, and I feel like the album definitely has a lot of themes of kind of dealing with that time and what that time meant to a lot of different people. And so that leads me to the title of the record, which I know a lot of us are familiar with, the Ides of March, Julius Caesar, that whole kind of historical event, but, was what we were going through kind of, something that led you to not only naming the record that, but, where was that inspiration coming from?
Yeah. I mean, I was actually on a walk with my wife one day, and this was early, I want to say it was like April or so of last year, of 2020. And that phrase came to mind, and to me that phrase has always implied a certain warning, like beware the Ides of March. Something impending doom was waiting just around the corner. And there was so much uncertainty at that point. We just didn't know what was going to happen. And I felt like that phrase really captured the essence of that. And so to me, it was obvious that there was a piece of music that I'd been working on that I knew was going to be epic and had a real weight to it, a real gravity to it. And it couldn't be some silly little title. It had to be something with a certain impact. And so I felt like, okay, Ides of March, perfect. Now we've got something for that particular musical body of work. And I also think I knew at that point that it would probably be the album title as well, because I think it just kind of summed it all up.
Yeah, because a lot of the song, the lyrical content is a lot about that. And I love the song In Stride, which I know is the first single, but and I know you've opened up about it, which I always, kind of commend a lot of musicians who have a platform, who kind of speak up about things like anxiety, because I struggle with that as well. And it's so whenever I hear anybody talk about it, I'm like, yes, someone's using their platform for that. But that song especially, I listen to the lyrics to that one, and it's kind of so perfectly kind of captured the worry that I feel like so many of us were feeling during those first couple of months.
That's great to hear. I, as a writer, as an artist, you hope that you're creating something that not only is helping you. I write these songs with these that become mantras to help me in my life, because I do. I struggle with things. I'm human. I've got my issues, things I'm working through. And so it's funny. There's so many songs that end up becoming they heal me. They help me. And so it really means a tremendous amount to hear that people can then use those same lyrics in their own lives. I mean, wow. I mean, that's just what an incredible, it's a wonderful position to know that you can do something that for a moment might help another human being. Awesome. And that's the power of music, music or any art form. It's that escape, it's that catharsis, whatever it is. And so, music rules.
Yeah, I was going to say that, writing that album, must have just been like a big kind of outlet for you during that time. Because I know, like you said, you weren't really touring, it was kind of this, just nobody seeing each other, like, kind of endless curiousness of what's about to happen. So for you, I'm sure it must have been kind of relieving to get that out and kind of onto paper and, onto a recording session.
Yeah, you have no idea just how cathartic it was. Yeah, I was just like everybody. I mean, I was kind of going down the rabbit hole there for a while, and it was getting pretty dark, and so having the opportunity to work through it with songs. Look, and it was the same thing with my previous record with Youre The Tiger. It's funny. It was interesting. I was having a conversation with my stepfather recently about this, and that record is about when I lost my biological father as a kid, and kind of the dynamics that ensued after that with the state of the family and whatnot, and our journey. And I struggled for years with trying to make sense of all of that, but it really wasn't. I feel like the closure of all of that dynamic really didn't happen until I wrote Youre The Tiger. I mean, so what I'm saying is that being a songwriter in a lot of ways is the best therapist you can have. It's like, and it's free.
Right. That's the best part, right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, but I knew a lot about that album, and I think it's, really great kind of talking about when we go back to what I first asked you is, this has kind of given you this solo career, has, given you that outlet, which I'm sure that you're able to do that too with Alter Bridge and with the songs you write with Slash, but, this has kind of given you the complete kind of creative freedom to write about whatever you want, and that's whatever's going on with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely, you have that artistic license to, especially when it's under your name to, and it makes sense too to have it be a little more personal. I feel like I can do that to a degree in the other projects, and I have in the past. But there's something about when it's your name on the cover of the record. Where it's like, it should be more personal. It should be more about what's going on right here and right here. So, it's something that I had no idea. Like when I started doing solo records a few years ago, I don't think I realized just how beneficial it was going to be, just on a psychological level for me. It's really been, it's been great to get the musical things off my chest, but also lyrically, it's been great to have the opportunity to put some of this stuff into words.
And I know it's kind of a very hard question because I've heard it's like picking a favorite child, but if you had to pick a favorite off of this record, is there one specifically that kind of stands out to you?
Probably the Ides of March, probably the title track. Yeah, that's one of those songs. It's funny, we're getting ready for to do a few tour dates.
Yeah.
In a few weeks, and so I've been rehearsing that song, and even when I'm just playing it all by myself, it really, there's something about it where it I don't know. It's one of those songs that at the end of the day, years from now, if people ask me, name your top 5 favorite songs of your career, I think that'll probably be on the list for me. It was a lot of work writing that one. I mean, it was definitely, a lot of people, they'll say their favorite songs or their biggest songs were written in 20 minutes. And that was definitely not the case with that one. There was another song along the journey with Alter Bridge called Blackbird. And it was the same sort of thing where that took months and months for us to finish. And it ended up being one of our favorite songs. And I think a lot of the fans' favorite songs, but it was the same thing with Ides of March. I think I started it in probably March of 2020. I don't think it was finished until almost July, so it took a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a really cinematic kind of song. It goes through a lot of ebbs and flows. It starts out with that kind of dark beginning and then kind of lifts up a little bit and kind of opens up. So it's a really kind of cinematic track on that record.
I appreciate that. That's how when I hear it, that's kind of what I think as well. I mean, I see it in a almost very cinematic. It tells a story.
And you mentioned the tour dates, which is very exciting because I feel like tour dates have not been a thing for the last year and a half. So, to see somebody go out on tour, it's really cool. So how do you feel to kind of be really close to your return to the stage after, almost 2 years?
I feel good. I'll admit I'm staying cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
It feels like things are changing daily. So I've still, my fingers are crossed, and we'll see how it all plays out. But right now, all systems are still go. So hopefully we can get her done, as they say.
I know, it's like every day I wake up, it's like this for everybody, but it's like every day I wake up and I see another tour cancellation, and it's just like, boo, I can't believe this. It's ridiculous. But a fun thing I really wanted to talk to you about, because I'm not sure how often, I'm sure a little bit you get asked about this, but one of my favorite movies is Rockstar, and I know that you have the cameo at the end, which is so great. I remember, I was an Alter Bridge fan and a Slash fan, and I watched that movie and I was like, holy shit, that's Myles Kennedy. But it's so cool, and what I love so much about that is that, at the end, for those who aren't familiar, your character kind of gets up, he takes over for Mark Wahlberg, who is this, rock singer, so you're kind of singing for your favorite band at the end there. And that is kind of almost in a way gone into your actual reality. I know that Led Zeppelin thing was a very kind of like brief thing that happened, but I mean, you got to sing with the guys in Led Zeppelin. So like, how did it feel to kind of have that, come to a little bit of a reality for you?
You bring up an interesting point, because that film, if someone would have told me when I shot that film that this is essentially going to be the story of your life, it really is. It's become kind of like it's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, look, that was crazy. I mean, that was the fact that I was standing in a room with those guys for a few days, it could have been for a minute and I still would have been surprised. But yeah, that I will never forget. I try to replay that experience as much as I can, because time often has a way of eroding memories, and that's something I want to just keep. I wish, what I wish is that they had the technology at this point to like plug some sort of cable into your brain and you could download it onto a hard drive, because I don't want to lose those memories. That was just magnificent. That was just so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, you think with all the stuff that they're coming out with now, I don't think technology like that's too far behind.
I think you're right, actually.
I know, it's like, it's weird, like the last year, doing Zoom interviews, used to be in person, and now it's just like, it's accustomed to like just be on technology. So I think that the memory device is just like a few short years away.
Elon Musk, get on it.
But yeah, I absolutely love that movie, and I think, even the stuff that you've done with Slash, I'm sure, getting to sing a lot of those songs, that have become so just famous and in culture and everything, must just be really cool. And it's kind of funny, like you said, how that fiction kind of became a reality for you.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the first time in rehearsals, this was like 11 years ago, when we were getting ready to do the first few dates with Slash and the Conspirators. And I think we were rehearsing Paradise City. And I remember standing in the rehearsal room, and Slash was to my left, and I was just like, once again, it was the same thing that I felt about 3 years prior or 2 years prior with over in London with Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones and Jason Bonham, and it was just like, how is it that I'm like Forrest Gump? How am I getting put in these positions? This is crazy. Like, why me? It's great. I'm not complaining. It's just like, wow, it's crazy.
Is there anything on the horizon for any new music with the Conspirators, or is that kind of we'll revisit that when things start to kind of open back up a little bit?
Yeah, I think the announcement came out recently that there's a record coming out on Gibson Records. No specific time as far as when it's going to be released. The date hasn't been made public, but yeah, we've got songs in the can, as they say. So that'll be exciting.
Amazing. I am so excited to hear it, and the Ides of March is such a great record. Everybody be sure to go ahead and purchase that. Give it a listen. Thank you so much, Myles, for your time and coming on the show. It's so appreciated.
My pleasure, Sydney. It's been a lot of fun.